Hey everyone, how's it going? It's been a while since I made a video, um, and yeah, so let's do it today. It's a short video for people who are in the job market. So I keep coming across people on LinkedIn and Twitter and different places, some people I know in person as well that have lost a job and they're struggling to find a job. Um, so a lot of these people have never lost a job before. That's one thing, and if you're that person, this video is for you. But let's talk about finding a job for someone who's experienced. You have a couple of years of experience under your belt, and you recently got fired, let go, whatever the reason was, the market or something else. So let's talk about that for people who are struggling to find a job in tech. Especially, this video is for people who are software engineers, programmers, whatever you want to call yourself. So I guess the first thing you gotta analyze, if you're in this situation, um, is to see if the skills that you have accumulated over the years are still relevant. So for example, if you are a PHP developer, we know the market is going downwards. For PHP developers, yes, it's going downwards, and we all know that we can see the job postings and all that. It could be because of the job market, right? It could be because of the um, just how things have been playing out because of COVID, because of economy and all that, right? And so it seems like the jobs are disappearing. So if you're a PHP developer, for example, the thing what I would recommend you do is see if in the subset of PHP development, the other tools and technologies that you have to know to find a job, are those technologies or the language itself is still relevant, right? So if you have so little jobs in the market, the pool of the candidates it's so big while the demand for them is so low. So there is only gonna be um, um, so little jobs. So if you look at your skill set and see, okay, you know what, I've been doing PHP for some time now, and the market is dying. So the obvious thing for most people um, is to just keep doing what they're doing, right? Keep looking for PHP developer job. Now this comes down to ego and desperation as well. Um, but if you really think logically, right? You have 2 years of experience, three, or more. I don't know. You know that if you really put your mind to it, you can transition into different language. So for a PHP developer, you might want to transition into Python, right? It would be easy transition. You can learn Django, you know, those sort of things. So that's what I would suggest. If you see your language is dying, try to transition. Try, well, like I understand, it's a desperation thing. You have to find a job, you got to pay bills and all that. But I'm not telling you to just become an expert at that. I'm telling you to transition into a field slightly so you have more chances. You can keep looking for PHP developer job, but if you, for example, build a few projects quickly in Python, which you should be able to do if you have experience with PHP, write some APIs, build something, now you have some experience, okay? Spend 2 or 3 weeks, right? Surely you're not looking for a job 24 hours a day, so you should be able to find some time. So build some projects. Now suddenly you have the relevant skills. PHP not so much, Python maybe. There is a lot of companies who would hire PHP developers who are transitioning into Python because they have old legacy PHP code bases that need to be moved to Python for whatever reason, right? So now you know a little bit of Python. You can work with, if you know Python, you can work with Lambda functions. You can do a lot of stuff with the data, right? So you have Python. So that's the first thing you have to honestly ask yourself if your skill is even in demand at this point. Maybe it'll come back in demand in next couple of years, but at the moment, is it in demand or not? If it's not in demand, maybe it's time to learn something else and build some projects quickly. Plan the project and build few, get some confidence. Build some vocabulary in that field. What are the terms they use in Python? So when you talk to people, they can tell, okay, this guy is a PHP developer, but he understands Python, so maybe they'll be of use. So that's first thing. Your skills. Don't be biased about skills. If you think something is going away, just let it go and focus on whatever you can focus on. At least it'll increase your chances. If you spend 3 hours every day learning Python, building projects, you can put that on your CV eventually after a couple of weeks, right? You can keep applying for a job. It does no harm, but learn a skill that's more in demand compared to what you're used to. Okay, that's one thing. Second thing, this is for people who are getting interviews. If you're getting interviews and you're just failing at the first stage, or that means the problem is obvious, right? The fact that you have got interview with the employer indicates your CV is okay, your skill set is still relevant. Now you're kind of blowing it off all the way in the interview stage. Now the problem comes down to the interview. You have to know how to talk to people, you have to know all the right terms. You have to be able to just explain them the projects that you have worked on. A lot of people can't do that. They'll explain something really complicated in a really short in so for example, if you have worked on a project that consumes an API, then it grabs the data, then it normalizes the data, cleans it further, validates it, and then it pushes it into different storage. For example, maybe it's saving that into text files, or maybe in relational database. You've done all that work, okay? Spend hours and days cleaning that up, understanding the data. But now when it comes down to explaining it to the interviewer, you give up. Tell them a short story, and that's it. They want to help you, but they can't, because the version that you're giving them, it's not, it's not, they're not just not satisfied with it. Maybe you need to speak a little longer. Maybe you need to write down what you're going to talk and then explain it to them. So if you're failing at interviews, that's your problem. Then the next thing is the market, right? We know how the market is at the moment. You can keep blaming it on the market, which is fine, but like I said, you could also see if there is an issue with the stuff that something is dying. Don't keep chasing it. Try to transition into something else. You're already a programmer, you should be able to transition. The only reason you're not transitioning is because you're not putting in time, right? At least you can transition into similar languages that follow the similar syntax. You don't need to go really niche, like I want to become like Python developer, an expert in accounting niche, and I build those specific softwares using Python. You don't have to do that. You can at least transition, understand the syntax, and just general things, and you should be able to. So if the market is bad, look, you can keep blaming it on the market. You can keep going on LinkedIn and cry and all that stuff. That is not going to help, because fundamentally the problem is something else. If you're getting interviews, the problem is not the market at this point. If your skill set is dying, the problem is not the market, right? So people who do blame the market, I sympathize with you, because the market is bad, but it's not bad for everyone, right? If you're a really good TypeScript developer, you can work with Node, you can build backend systems. Market is not so bad for you at the moment, at least, right? Also, you gotta be a little bit unbiased and see if you're actually, like, maybe you need to downgrade a little bit. If you're getting paid 5,000, 10,000 less, fine. Just at least go back in the market. Now you're working, okay? It's easier to find a job that way, and you're less desperate as well. So keep that in mind. You can blame market a little bit if you want, but not fully. You can't just keep blaming the market all the time. You know, because it's gonna just shut off your brain. It'll make you thinking very narrow. I know it's like a little bit of a philosophical stuff, but I think it helps. You gotta realize that you can't just say it's a market. That's bad. It's the economy, interest rate, um, all that. So keep that in mind. And the last thing I'll say um, is the volume. A lot of people I speak to seem to think they're applying for a lot of jobs, seem to think they're having a lot of interviews, but they're not. Um, if you apply for, let's say, 25, 30 jobs, okay, and you have two interviews with the employer, that's not bad. That's actually not bad at all. That's really good. Because when you have an interview with employer, you're just this close to the job, right? Maybe you'll move to this next stage interviews. So you're doing well. You got to realize that. But if you come to me, for example, I applied for 10 jobs. I haven't even got one interview because you're not supposed to get interviews when you apply for 10 jobs. Yeah, you have to increase the volume. And when you have an interview, do prepare for interview a little bit, but keep applying for jobs. Stack the interviews one after another after another. Don't just sit there um, hoping that you will actually get this job. You might get, might not. You probably won't get, truthfully speaking. Um, which is why you gotta keep applying. Even though, let's say, if you have an interview today, you should be applying for jobs. Arrange an interview somehow. Apply for more jobs and get an interview booked in for 2 days later, and then another one, and then another one. That's what you gotta do. Also, you have to be in that flow, right? Interview after interview after interview after interview, and then getting the feedback and then improving on that. So you have to increase the volume a lot. Most people do need to increase the volume, truthfully, but you also got to realize that if you're applying and then you applied for 50 jobs and all of them all of the employers, recruiters rejected you, then you got to realize, okay, is my CV bad, is my skill set relevant? So you got to see those sort of things as well. um, yeah, I think that's all I have to say today. Things are sort of bad at the moment, um, but don't be getting this loop of self pity and stuff like that, because it's not gonna help. And yeah, just keep applying and see what's actually happening. Just sit down and see. I applied for 50 jobs there, got two responses. Um, if you're getting two responses, that's um, two responses to have discussion with the recruiters, that's very low. Okay, but if you got two interviews, that's not bad. So you got to see what's going on there as well, and you got to aggressively chase for feedback as well. you know so yeah, keep these things in mind, man. That's all I gotta say. If you're getting interview, you're not doing too bad. Don't just keep crying about the market. Increase the volume, and see if you need to learn something new. That's all I gotta say. Best of luck.